You know how sometimes life just slaps you in the face when you least expect it? Well, that's exactly what happened to me last Tuesday. I'm sitting in this stuffy funeral home wearing the only black dress I own, the one I bought for job interviews 3 years ago, and never thought I'd need for something like this. My name's Sarah, and I'm about to tell you the most insane story that happened to my family. Or what I thought was my family, anyway. So there I am, right? Trying not to cry because, honestly, I barely knew my great Aunt Margaret. She was this mysterious woman who lived in that big house on Maple Street, the one with the perfectly manicured lawn and the white picket fence. You know the type, the house that looks like it belongs in a magazine, not in our crappy little town. I'd seen her maybe 5 times in my entire life. Christmas dinners when I was little. And even then, she'd sit in the corner, barely talking to anyone. My mom always said she was difficult and left it at that. Dad would just shake his head whenever her name came up. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets weird. There were like 50 people at her funeral. 50. I'm looking around thinking, who are all these people? Because our family, we're not that big. It's basically me, my parents, my brother, Jake, and a handful of cousins who show up to weddings and funerals. The service was nice, I guess. Generic. The pastor clearly didn't know her personally because he kept calling her a pillar of the community and devoted to helping others. I'm sitting there thinking, are we talking about the same person? The woman who never answered her phone and had groceries delivered because she didn't want to deal with people? After the service, we're all standing around that awkward post-funeral mingling thing, where everyone's trying to figure out if they should be sad or relieved or what. That's when I noticed him. This guy in an expensive suit, like really expensive suit. Not the kind of suit you see in our town. He's got this briefcase, and he's looking around, like he's searching for someone specific. And then his eyes land on our little family cluster. "Excuse me," he says, walking over. "Are you the Mitchell family?" My dad straightens up. "Yes, that's us. I'm Robert Mitchell, Margaret's nephew." He nods. "I'm David Chen, Ms. Margaret's attorney. I was wondering if I could speak with all of you privately. There are some matters regarding her estate that need to be discussed." Now, I gotta be honest with you. None of us expected anything. Like nothing. We figured maybe she'd leave her china to someone or donate everything to charity. The women lived alone, barely spoke to us, and as far as we knew, she was just getting by on Social Security. But this lawyer, David, he's looking at us like we're important. Like we matter. It's weird. "Of course," Mom says, smoothing down her dress. "Should we go to your office or—" "Actually, if it's all right with you, I'd prefer to meet at Ms. Margaret's house. Tomorrow at 2 p.m.? There are some things there that, well, it'll be easier to explain in person." We all look at each other. Jake raises his eyebrows at me. I shrug. "Sure," Dad says. "We'll be there." As we're driving home, nobody's talking. Which is weird for us because we're the kind of family that talks everything to death. But there's this tension in the car. This feeling like something big is about to happen. "What do you think she left us?" Jake finally asks from the back seat. "Probably her old furniture, how she was about keeping everything perfect." But I had this weird feeling in my stomach. You know that feeling when you're about to get on a roller coaster and you're not sure if you're excited or terrified? Yeah, that one. Because here's what I didn't tell you yet, and what I didn't know until the next day. Great Aunt Margaret had been watching us, all of us, for years. And she knew things about our family that we didn't even know about ourselves. Walking into Aunt Margaret's house the next day felt like stepping into a time capsule. Everything was exactly as I remembered from those few childhood visits. The doilies on every surface, the smell of lavender and old books, the way the sunlight came through those heavy curtains and made everything look golden. But now it felt different, empty, like the house was holding its breath. David the lawyer was already there, waiting on the front porch with his briefcase. He looked even more serious in the daylight, if that's possible. "Thank you all for coming," he said, unlocking the front door. "I know this might seem unusual, but trust me, there's a reason for doing this here." We filed into the living room, and I swear it was like Margaret was still there. Her reading glasses were on the side table next to her favorite chair. There was a bookmark sticking out of a romance novel, which honestly surprised me. I never pictured her reading romance novels. "Please, sit wherever you're comfortable," David said, settling into the chair across from us. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I've been Miss Margaret's attorney for about 15 years, and I have to say, she was one of the most interesting clients I've ever had. Dad leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Well, for starters, she was significantly wealthier than anyone knew. And I mean significantly." The room went quiet, like dead quiet. I could hear the old grandfather clock ticking in the corner. How wealthy are we talking about?" Mom asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David smiled for the first time since we'd met him. "Miss Margaret's estate is valued at approximately $2.3 million. I actually choked, like literally choked on my own spit. Jake's mouth fell open so wide, I thought his jaw might unhinge. That's impossible," Dad stammered. "She lived so simply. She drove that old Honda for 20 years. She never traveled, never bought anything fancy. She was very careful with her money. She inherited some, made some very smart investments, and lived well below her means. But here's the thing, and this is why I wanted to meet here. She left very specific instructions about how her estate should be distributed." He pulled out a document that looked like it was about 50 pages long. "She left detailed letters for each of you. She wanted me to read them aloud here in her house so you'd understand her reasoning." My heart was beating so fast I thought it might jump out of my chest. This was insane. We went from thinking we might inherit some old dishes to finding out she was secretly rich. "Should I start with the letter addressed to the family as a whole?" David asked. We all nodded because, honestly, none of us could speak. David cleared his throat and began reading. "To my dear family, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone, and David is doing exactly what I asked him to do. I know this might seem unusual, but trust me, there's a reason for doing this here. I know about the struggles you've all faced, even though you never asked me for help. Robert, I know about the 3 jobs you worked when Sarah was in high school because you didn't want her to give up her dreams. Linda, I know about the nights you stayed up crying when the medical bills piled up after Jake's accident. Sarah, I know you gave up your scholarship to stay home and help with expenses. Jake, I know you still blame yourself for that accident, even though it wasn't your fault. I never knew how to show love the way normal families do. I was always awkward, always on the outside looking in. But I want you to know that I loved you all deeply. And I want you to know that there's someone else who loves you too. Someone who's been part of this family longer than any of you realize." David stopped reading and looked directly at me. "Sarah, there's something else. Someone else who needs to be here for this." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Miss Margaret left specific instructions that Maria Santos should be present for the reading of the will." The name hit me like a brick wall. Maria Santos, our housekeeper. Well, not really our housekeeper because we couldn't afford a housekeeper, but Maria had been coming to our house twice a week for as long as I can remember, helping Mom with cleaning and cooking, never accepting full payment, always insisting we were helping her out by letting her work for us. "Maria?" Mom said, sounding confused. "But she's not, I mean, she's wonderful, but she's not family." David looked at Mom with this expression I couldn't quite read. Actually, Miss Mitchell, according to Miss Margaret's will, Maria Santos is the primary beneficiary of her estate. The room started spinning. I grabbed the arm of the couch to steady myself. That's impossible, Dad said. She barely knew Maria. They maybe met 3 times in all these years? David reached into his briefcase and pulled out another folder, a much thicker one. Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Margaret didn't just know Maria. She's been paying Maria's salary for the past 12 years, every penny. And not just for the work she did at your house. Margaret was covering Maria's rent, her children's school expenses, her mother's medical bills, and her own college tuition. Yes, Maria has been taking night classes for her nursing degree, funded entirely by your aunt. I felt like I was going to throw up. This couldn't be real. But why? I managed to ask. David smiled again, but this time it was a sad smile. Because Maria Santos isn't just your housekeeper. She's the person who's been taking care of your family for 12 years without any of you knowing it. And according to Miss Margaret, she's the person who deserves to be taken care of in return. I don't understand, Mom said, and I could hear her tears in her voice. Mrs. Mitchell, when was the last time you wondered how Maria could afford to work for you for almost nothing? When was the last time you asked yourself how she managed to always be available when you needed her, even when you couldn't pay her full wage? The silence in that room was deafening, because we all knew the answer. We'd never asked. We just accepted it, grateful for the help, but never questioning how she made it work. Margaret saw what was happening. She saw a woman who was sacrificing her own financial security to help a family she'd grown to love. And she saw a family who was too proud to accept help, but too desperate to turn it down. So she became the bridge. I was crying now, full-on crying, because suddenly everything made sense. Why Maria never seemed stressed about money, why she was always so happy, why she treated us like we were her own family. She's been supporting us all these years. She's been supporting us. Not just supporting, loving in the only way she knew how. I couldn't sleep that night, like at all. I kept staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything David had told us. Maria Santos, the woman who had been quietly holding our family together for 12 years, was about to inherit $2.3 million from a great aunt who barely spoke to us but had been watching us all along. It was like finding out your entire life was a lie, but not a bad lie, a good lie, a lie that had been protecting us. Around 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went downstairs to make tea. That's when I heard Mom crying in the kitchen. Not the quiet, dignified crying you do at funerals. The ugly, soul-deep crying that comes from realizing something fundamental about your life. "Mom?" I whispered, not wanting to startle her. She looked up, her eyes red and puffy. "I can't stop thinking about it, Sarah. All those times I complained about money in front of her. All those times I stressed about bills while she was standing right there, knowing she was already taking care of us." I sat down next to her at the kitchen table, the same table where Maria had served us countless meals, where she'd helped me with homework, where she'd listened to Jake complain about his physical therapy after the accident. "Do you think she knows?" I asked. "About the will?" "I don't know," Mom said. "David said he was going to call her this morning to set up a meeting." God, Sarah, what do we even say to her? That's when we heard it, a soft knock on the front door at 2 a.m. Mom and I looked at each other. Who knocks on someone's door at 2 a.m. with anything good to say? I followed Mom to the front door, and when she opened it, there was Maria. She was still in her work clothes. She cleans office buildings at night now, I realized. Another job we never knew about. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm sorry for coming so late. I got a call from a lawyer today, and I don't understand what's happening." Mom's face crumpled. "Oh, Maria, come in. Please. We sat in the living room and Maria looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. She was holding a piece of paper, probably the lawyer's business card. He said something about Miss Margaret's will, Maria said, but I don't understand. I only met her a few times. Why would a lawyer be calling me? Mom was crying again. Maria, there's something we need to tell you. Something we just found out ourselves. And then Mom did something I'd never seen her do before. She got down on her knees in front of Maria's chair and took her hands. Maria, we're so sorry. We never knew. We never understood what you were doing for us. Maria looked confused. What do you mean? Margaret was paying you, I said, because Mom couldn't get the words out. All these years, she was paying you to take care of us. Your salary, your expenses, everything. We never paid you what you deserved because she was already covering it. Maria's eyes went wide. No, that's not... I don't understand. She's been watching our family for years, Mom said. She knew we were struggling and she knew you were helping us, even though you could barely afford to. So she made sure you were taken care of too. Maria was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that broke my heart. So you didn't really need me. You could have hired someone else, someone proper, if you'd had the money. No, Mom said, gripping Maria's hands tighter. No, Maria, that's not what this means at all. Don't you see? She chose you. Out of all the people in the world she could have hired to help us, she chose you. Because she saw what we see. She saw that you're not just someone who works for us, you're family. But I'm not real family, Maria whispered, and I swear something inside me broke when she said that. According to Margaret's will, you are Maria. I said, she left you everything, Maria, almost everything, because she said you've been the one really taking care of us all these years. Maria stared at me like I'd just told her the sky was green. Everything? But I can't... That's not right. You're her family. And you're ours, Mom said. You've been ours for 12 years. We just didn't know how to say it. We sat there in silence for a while, all of us crying. Then Maria said something that made me understand just how much we'd missed over the years. I have to tell you something, she said, about why I started working for you. It wasn't just because I needed the job. She took a deep breath. 12 years ago, my daughter Isabella was very sick. She needed surgery and I had no insurance, no money. I was cleaning offices downtown trying to save up, but it wasn't enough. I was going to lose her. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. I was praying in the church one day, crying, asking God for help, and this woman sat down next to me. I'd never seen her before. She was very quiet, very proper. She listened to me cry, and then she said, "What if I told you there was a family that needed help, and helping them could help you too?" "Margaret," I whispered. She told me about you, about how Mr. Mitchell was working 3 jobs, how you, Mrs. Mitchell, were trying to hold everything together, how Sarah was about to give up her dreams for her family. She said you needed someone who understood what it meant to sacrifice for the people you love. Maria wiped her eyes. She paid for Isabella's surgery, all of it. And then she said I could work for you and she would make sure I could still take care of my family too. She said it was temporary until you got back on your feet. But it's been 12 years, Mom said. Because I didn't want to leave, Maria said simply. You became my family too. And she understood that. She kept taking care of all of us because she knew we were taking care of each other. I was sobbing now, full-on, ugly sobbing, because I realized that for 12 years,
We'd had this incredibly pure thing happening right under our noses, and we'd been too blind to see it. "Maria," I said, "there's something else. David, the lawyer, he's going to want to meet with you tomorrow. There are details about the will, about what Margaret left for everyone." "I don't want her money," Maria said quickly. "It should go to you, to the real family." "You are the real family," Mom said. "Don't you see? You've been the real family all along." The next day, we all went to David's office together. Me, Mom, Dad, Jake, and Maria.
It felt right, somehow. Walking in as a complete family for the first time in 12 years. David's office was nothing like I expected. It was warm and comfortable, with family photos on his desk and books scattered around like he actually read them instead of just using them for decoration. "Please, everyone sit," he said, gesturing to a large conference table. "I know yesterday was overwhelming, so I want to take today to go through everything carefully." He pulled out the thick folder again and spread several documents across the table. "First, I want to read you the letter Miss Margaret wrote specifically about Maria, because I think it will help everyone understand her intentions." He cleared his throat and began. "To my dear family, and to Maria, who has been the heart of that family, I want you to know that I've been watching all of you for 12 years, and what I've seen has been the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. I've watched a woman sacrifice her own security to help a family she grew to love. I've watched a family unknowingly accept that love and give it back tenfold. I've watched 5 people become one family through nothing but pure, selfless love." Maria was crying before he even finished the first paragraph. "To Maria, you are not an employee. You are not a helper. You are a daughter, a sister, a mother to children who aren't yours by blood, but are yours by choice. You have given Sarah confidence, Jake healing, Robert hope, and Linda peace. You have asked for nothing and given everything." David paused and looked directly at Maria. "She goes on to say that she's leaving you the house, the investments, and the bulk of her estate because, and I quote, 'You are the only one who truly understands what it means to love a family completely.' But what about Sarah and Jake? What about Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell? This is wrong." "Actually," David said, "she left specific provisions for everyone. Sarah, she set up a fund for you to finish your education, any education you want, anywhere you want. Jake, she's established a trust for your medical expenses and physical therapy, plus funding for the adaptive sports program you've been wanting to start." I stared at him. She knew about the sports program? "She knew about everything," David said. "Robert, she's paid off your mortgage. Linda, she set up a fund for you to start the catering business you've always dreamed about but never had the capital for." We were all speechless. How did she know about Mom's catering dreams? How did she know about Jake's sports program idea? How did she know I'd been thinking about going back to school? "But here's the thing," David continued. "All of these provisions come with one condition." "What condition?" Dad asked. "That you remain a family. All of you. Together." Maria looked confused. "What does that mean?" David smiled. "It means she's requiring that Maria legally become a part of the Mitchell family. Adoption papers have already been drawn up. She's leaving everything to a family of 5, not a family of 4 plus 1 employee." The room went so quiet, I could hear my own heartbeat. "Adoption?" Maria whispered. "She wanted to make sure there was never any question about where you belonged, and she wanted to make sure you'd never have to worry about being just the help ever again." I looked at Maria and she looked terrified. I can't. I can't take your family's name. I can't take your inheritance. It's not right. Maria, Mom said softly, what's your daughter's name? Isabella. You know that. And what's your son's name? Miguel. And do you love them? Of course I love them. They're my children. Did you give birth to Jake and Sarah? Maria looked confused. No, but you love them anyway. You've taken care of them, worried about them, been proud of them, right? Maria nodded, tears streaming down her face. Then what's the difference? Mom asked. Love is love, Maria. Family is family. The papers don't make it real. The love makes it real. The papers just make it legal. David pulled out another document. There's something else. Miss Margaret also left a letter specifically for Isabella and Miguel. My children? She's established college funds for both of them, full scholarships to any school they want to attend.
She said, and I quote, Sarah and Jake are not the only young people in this family who deserve to have their dreams supported. Maria completely broke down, like couldn't breathe crying. Mom got up and wrapped her arms around her, and then Dad joined them, and then Jake and I did too. We stood there in this lawyer's office, all of us crying and hugging, and I realized this was the first time in 12 years that we'd embraced Maria like she was really, truly one of us. There's one more thing, David said when we finally separated. Miss Margaret recorded a video message. She wanted you to see it after you understood everything else. He turned his laptop towards us and pressed play. There was Aunt Margaret, sitting in her living room, looking directly at the camera. She looked different, not cold or distant like I remembered. She looked warm, happy even. Hello, my dear family, she said, and her voice was soft and full of love. If you're watching this, it means David has done his job and you finally understand what I've been trying to tell you for years without words. She paused, and I swear she was looking directly at me through the screen. I was never good at showing love the normal way. I was awkward and shy, and I didn't know how to be part of a family. But I learned something watching all of you. Love isn't about blood. It's about choice. It's about showing up. It's about sacrifice. She looked directly at the camera again. Maria, my dear, you chose to love a family that wasn't yours. You chose to sacrifice for children who weren't your own. You chose to stay when you could have left. That's not what an employee does. That's what a mother does. That's what a daughter does. That's what family does. The video continued, but I couldn't hear anything else because I was crying too hard. All I could think about was how wrong we'd been, how blind we'd been, how we spent 12 years accepting love without recognizing it, receiving sacrifice without acknowledging it. When the video ended, Maria looked at all of us with this expression I'd never seen before. It was like she was seeing us for the first time, or maybe like she was finally allowing herself to see what had been there all along. If I do this, she said quietly, if I become officially part of your family, what happens to Isabel and Miguel? They become part of our family too, Mom said without hesitation. They always have been. We just didn't know how to say it. And what about me working for you? What about my job? Maria, Dad said, you're about to inherit $2.3 million. You don't need to work for us anymore. You can work with us. You can be part of the decisions instead of just following them. Maria was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I need to think about this. I need to talk to my children. Of course, David said, take all the time you need. But Miss Margaret did specify that if you decide to go through with the adoption, she wanted the ceremony to happen in her house. She wanted it to be a celebration, not just a legal procedure. As we were leaving the office, Maria grabbed my arm. Sarah, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you really want me to be your sister? Really? I looked at her.
This woman who had been more of a mother to me than my own mother during some of the hardest years of my life, who had celebrated my accomplishments and comforted me through my failures, who had been the steady presence in our house when everything else was falling apart. Maria, I've wanted you to be my sister for 12 years. I just didn't know how to ask. 3 days later, Maria called and asked if she could come over with Isabella and Miguel. She said there were things we needed to discuss, all of us together. I was nervous as hell, because here's the thing nobody talks about. When you suddenly realize your entire understanding of your family is wrong, you start questioning everything. Like, what if Isabella and Miguel hated us? What if they thought we were taking advantage of their mother? What if they didn't want to be part of our weird, complicated family situation? Isabella is 17, just a year younger than me, and Miguel is 15, same age as Jake. I'd met them probably dozens of times over the years, but always in passing, always as Maria's kids. Not as what they apparently actually were.
They arrived on a Sunday afternoon, and I could tell Maria was nervous too. She kept smoothing down her shirt and checking her hair in the hallway mirror. "Isabella, Miguel," Mom said when they walked in. "I'm so glad you could come. We have a lot to talk about." Isabella looked exactly like Maria, but with this confidence that Maria sometimes lacked. Miguel was quiet, like Jake, but his eyes were constantly moving, taking everything in. "Before we start," Isabella said, "I want to say something." We all turned to look at her. "I know about the will. Mom told us everything, and I want you to know that we're not going to let you feel guilty about this." "What do you mean?" Dad asked. "I mean, I can see it in your faces. You're all feeling bad because you didn't know Mom was being paid by your aunt. You're feeling bad because you didn't realize she was making sacrifices for you. But here's the thing. Mom chose to do that. She chose to love you, and you chose to love her back. Nobody forced any of this." Miguel nodded. "Isabella's right. Mom's been happier in the last 12 years than she ever was before she met you. You didn't take advantage of her. You gave her a purpose." I felt something loosen in my chest that I didn't even know was tight. "Besides," Isabella continued, "you want to know the truth? We've been considering you family for years. Miguel and I, we call you our American family. When people ask us about our family, we talk about you." "You do?" I asked. "Of course we do. Who do you think taught me how to fix cars? Mr. Mitchell. Who do you think helped me with my college applications? Sarah. Who do you think came to my soccer games when Mom had to work? Mrs. Mitchell and Jake." I stared at him. "You remember all that?" "Sarah, you helped me with my English homework for 3 years. You drove me to job interviews. You were the one who told me I was smart enough for college. How could I not remember that?" I was starting to cry again. God, I was getting tired of crying. "But here's what I want to know," Isabella continued. "If Mom does this adoption thing, what does that make us? What does that make our family?" "It makes us one family instead of two. It makes us official." "And what about when you disagree with Mom about something? What happens then?" Dad smiled. "The same thing that happens when we disagree with Sarah or Jake. We talk about it, we work it out, we stay family." "And what about money?" Isabella asked. "Because this is a lot of money we're talking about, life-changing money." "What about it?" Jake asked. "I don't want anyone to think we're doing this for the money. I don't want anyone to think Mom is doing this for the money." "Isabella, do you know what your mom did last week when she found out about the inheritance?" "What?" "I told you how she tried to give it all to us, all of it. She said she didn't deserve it, that it should go to the real family. Does that sound like someone who's doing this for money?" Isabella smiled for the first time since they'd arrived. "No, it doesn't. That sounds like Mom." "There's something else we need to talk about," Maria said. "If we do this, if we become one family officially, things are going to change. I won't be working for you anymore. I'll be living with you, making decisions with you, being part of the family in a completely different way." "How do you want it to work?" Mom asked. "I don't know," Maria said honestly. "I've been taking care of everyone for so long.
I don't know how to be taken care of. Then we'll figure it out together, Dad said. We'll make mistakes and we'll fix them. We'll have arguments and we'll work through them. We'll be a family, a real, messy, complicated family. Miguel looked at Jake. What do you think about all this? Jake was quiet for a moment. I think it's going to be weird, he said finally. I think it's going to be hard sometimes. But I also think it's going to be amazing. I think we're going to be stronger together than we've ever been apart. And what about you, Sarah? Isabella asked. What do you think? I looked around the room at all these people who had been my family in every way that mattered for 12 years, and who were about to become my family in every way that was legal and official.
I think, I said, that Great Aunt Margaret was a lot smarter than any of us gave her credit for. I think she saw something we couldn't see, and she spent 12 years making sure we'd be okay when she couldn't watch out for us anymore. So, you want to do this? Maria asked. You want to make it official? Maria, I said, I've wanted to call you my sister for 12 years. I've wanted to call Isabella and Miguel my siblings. I've wanted us to be a real family instead of just people who love each other but don't know how to say it. Then let's do it, Isabella said. Let's become the Mitchell-Santos family. The Mitchell-Santos family? Mom asked. Well, we're not losing our name, Miguel said. We're just adding to it. And that's when I knew we were going to be okay. Because a real family doesn't make anyone lose who they are. A real family just makes everyone more of who they already are. David had said the adoption ceremony could happen in Aunt Margaret's house. And suddenly, I couldn't think of anywhere more perfect. The house where she'd lived alone but had loved us all. The house where she'd planned and schemed and made sure we'd all be taken care of. When do we do it? I asked. Next Saturday, if that's okay with everyone. It's perfect, Mom said. It's absolutely perfect. The morning of the adoption ceremony, I woke up feeling like I was getting married or something, like this was the most important day of my life, and I better not mess it up. We were all meeting at Aunt Margaret's house, which I guess I should start calling the family house now, since Maria inherited it. David had arranged for a judge to come perform the ceremony, and Maria had invited a few of her closest friends. But first, we had something to do as a family, something that had been 12 years in the making. Before we make this official, Dad said, as we gathered in Margaret's living room, I think we need to say some things to each other, things we should have said a long time ago. We were all dressed up, Maria in a beautiful blue dress I'd never seen before, Isabella and Miguel in clothes that actually fit them properly for once, my family in our best Sunday outfits. We looked like a real family. We looked like we belonged together. I want to go first, Mom said. Maria, I need to apologize to you. For 12 years, I let you carry burdens that should have been mine. I let you worry about our family's well-being while I was too proud to admit we needed help. I let you sacrifice for us without ever acknowledging what you were giving up. Maria started to shake her head, but Mom held up her hand. Let me finish. I also need to thank you. You didn't just help us survive those hard years. You helped us thrive. You made our house a home. You made our children confident and loved. You made our family stronger than it ever could have been without you. Mom wiped her eyes. And I need to promise you something. From now on, you're not taking care of us alone. We're taking care of each other. All of us. Together. Dad cleared his throat. My turn. Maria, I've been thinking about something Isabella said the other day. She said you've been happier in the last 12 years than you ever were before. Well, so have I. So have we all. You brought something into our house that we didn't even know we were missing.
He paused, struggling with the words. I was so focused on providing for my family that I forgot families need more than money. They need warmth. They need laughter. They need someone who sees the good in them even when they can't see it themselves. You gave us all of that. Jake spoke up next. Maria, do you remember when I had that accident when I was in the hospital for 3 weeks? Of course I remember, Maria said softly. Do you remember what you told me when I said I wanted to quit physical therapy? Maria smiled. I told you that giving up wasn't the same as letting go. I said sometimes you have to let go of who you thought you were going to be so you can become who you're supposed to be. That's right. And do you know what? You were talking about yourself, too. You let go of being just Maria Santos, the woman who worked for the Mitchell family. You became Maria Santos, the woman who is the Mitchell family. Isabella stood up. I want to say something too. Miguel and I have been watching all of you for years, and we've been waiting for this day.
Not the adoption day. We've been waiting for the day when you'd all finally realize what we've known all along. What's that? I asked. That you're not a family because you're related by blood. You're a family because you choose each other every single day. You choose to love each other, to support each other, to be there for each other. That's what real family is. Miguel nodded, and we want to be part of that. We want to choose all of you, every day, for the rest of our lives. Then it was my turn, and I felt like I was going to throw up because I'm not good at this emotional stuff. But I looked at Maria, and the words just came. Maria, do you remember the night before I was supposed to start my senior year of high school? I was crying because I decided to drop out and get a job instead. I remember, she said. You sat with me for 3 hours. You didn't try to talk me out of it. You just listened. And then you said something I'll never forget. You said, Sarah, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let people help you. You said, love isn't just about giving. It's about receiving too. I was crying now, but I didn't care. Well, I'm ready to receive now. I'm ready to receive the love of a sister who's been loving me for 12 years without me knowing how to love her back properly. Maria was full on sobbing at this point. Sarah, you've been loving me back. All of you have. You just didn't know how to call it the right thing. Well, now we do. Now we can call it what it is. Family. That's when David arrived with Judge Peterson, a kind-looking woman in her 60s, who seemed genuinely happy to be there. I have to say, Judge Peterson said as we gathered around Margaret's dining room table, in 30 years of family law, I've never seen an adoption quite like this one. Usually we're creating new families. Today we're just making official what already exists. She had us all sign papers, lots of papers. But the most important one was the one that officially made Maria Santos into Maria Santos Mitchell and Isabella and Miguel into Isabella Santos Mitchell and Miguel Santos Mitchell. Now, Judge Peterson said, I believe someone has prepared vows. Maria stood up, holding a piece of paper that was shaking in her hands. 12 years ago, I thought I was just taking a job. I thought I was just helping a family get through a hard time. I had no idea that I was actually coming home. She looked at each of us. Robert, Linda, Sarah, Jake, you gave me something I'd never had before. You gave me a family that wasn't based on obligation or duty, but on choice. You chose to let me into your lives, into your hearts, into your daily struggles and joys. Her voice was getting stronger now, and I want to choose you back, officially, legally, forever. I want to choose to be Sarah's sister, Jake's sister, Robert's daughter, Linda's daughter. I want to choose to be part of this beautiful, complicated, imperfect family. She turned to Isabella and Miguel, and I want my children to have what I found here. I want them to have siblings who will love them unconditionally, parents who will support their dreams, a family that will be there no matter what. Maria Santos Mitchell, Judge Peterson said, do you promise to be part of this family in joy and in sorrow, in good times and in bad, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, for as long as you all shall live? I do, Maria said. Mitchell family, Judge Peterson continued, do you promise to welcome Maria, Isabella, and Miguel into your family completely and unconditionally,
to love and support them as you would any family member for as long as you all shall live?" "We do," we all said together. "Then, by the power vested in me by the state, I now pronounce you officially and legally a family. You may, well, I guess you may hug each other." We all crashed together in the biggest, messiest, most perfect group hug in the history of group hugs, and I swear I felt Aunt Margaret there with us, smiling and probably thinking, "Finally, it took you long enough." After Judge Peterson left, we just sat in Margaret's living room, our living room now, and talked, really talked, about everything. About the past 12 years, about the future, about how we were going to make this work. "So what now?" Miguel asked. "What do we do with all this money? What do we do with this house? What do we do with our lives?"
"We live them," Dad said. "We live them together. We make mistakes together. We celebrate together. We be a family together." "And we honor Margaret's memory," Mom added. "We use what she gave us to build something beautiful, something that would make her proud." "What do you think she would want us to do?" Isabella asked. I thought about it for a minute. I think she'd want us to do what she did. I think she'd want us to find other families who need help and help them. I think she'd want us to be the bridge for other people the way she was the bridge for us. "The Santos Mitchell Family Foundation," Jake said suddenly. "We could start a foundation, help other families in situations like ours." "That's perfect," Maria said. "That's exactly what she would have wanted." As we sat there planning our future, I realized something. This wasn't just about money or inheritance or legal documents. This was about what Great Aunt Margaret had been trying to teach us all along. That family isn't about blood or DNA or shared last names. It's about showing up. It's about loving people even when it's hard. It's about choosing each other every single day. And in that moment, sitting in that living room with my parents, my brothers, my sisters, I finally understood what she meant when she said Maria was real family. We all were. 3 months after the adoption, we had our first real fight as an official family. And let me tell you, it was a doozy. It started over something stupid. It always does, right? Miguel wanted to paint his new room black. Not dark blue, not navy, not charcoal, black. Like goth, vampire, dungeon, black. Mom completely lost it. "Absolutely not," she said, standing in the doorway of what used to be Margaret's guest room. "It's your room, and I'm 15 years old. I think I can choose what color I want my walls to be." "Not while you're living under my roof," Mom said, and then immediately looked horrified because she'd just pulled the classic parent power move. "Your roof?" said Miguel, and his voice was dangerously quiet. "I thought this was our house now. I thought we were all equal members of this family." That's when Maria walked in, saw the standoff, and sighed. "What's going on here?" "Your son wants to paint his room black," Mom said, like she was reporting a crime. "And your wife won't let me," Miguel said to Dad, who had just appeared because apparently the whole house could hear this argument. "Okay, everyone calm down," Dad said, which is literally the worst thing you can say when people are fighting. "Don't tell me to calm down," Mom snapped. "This is exactly what I was worried about. We're all trying to live together and nobody knows what the rules are anymore." "What do you mean?" Maria asked. "I mean, am I still the parent here? Are you? Are we co-parents? Are we equals? Because I don't know how to discipline your kids, and I don't know if you're going to undermine me if I try." Oh. This wasn't about paint colors at all. "And about the money," Mom continued, "because apparently we were having all the fights today. Miguel wants to buy a car, Isabella wants to take a gap year and travel through Europe, Jake wants to quit his part-time job and focus on school, Sarah wants to transfer to a private college, and I don't know who gets to make these decisions anymore." "I do," Maria said quietly. "What?" "I make the decisions about Isabella and Miguel. You and Robert make the decisions about Sarah and Jake. That's how it works." "But what if we disagree?" Mom asked. "What if I think Isabella's Europe trip is a bad idea, but you think it's fine?" "Then we talk about it, like families do." "But what if we can't agree?" "Then we agree to disagree, and each parent makes the decision for their own kids." "But that's not fair," Jake said. "Why should Sarah get to go to private college if Miguel can't paint his room black?" "Because those are completely different things," I said. "Are they?" Miguel asked. "They're both about freedom and choice and being trusted to make decisions about our own lives." He had a point. Damn it. This is exactly what I was afraid of, and now she was crying.
I was afraid we wouldn't know how to be a family when it got hard. I was afraid we'd mess it up." "Linda," Maria said gently, "we're not messing it up. We're just figuring it out. This is normal. This is what families do." "But we're not a normal family," Mom said. "We're a family that was put together by a will and a lawyer and a bunch of legal documents. We're a family that happened because someone else decided we should be one." The room went dead silent. Because wow, that was the thing none of us had wanted to say out loud. "Is that what you really think?" Isabella asked, and her voice was small and hurt. "I don't know," Mom said. "I don't know what I think anymore. I don't know if we're doing this because we want to or because we feel obligated to." "I can answer that, at least for me." We all turned to look at him. "I'm doing this because I love you all of you. I'm doing this because the last 3 months have been some of the happiest of my life. I'm doing this because when I come home from work and see all of you here, I feel like I'm home in a way I never did before." "But what about when we disagree?" Mom asked. "What about when we have different ideas about how to raise the kids or spend the money or live our lives?" "Then we figure it out. Together, like we're doing right now." "But what if we can't figure it out?" "Then we keep trying," Maria said, "because that's what families do. They don't give up on each other just because it's hard." Miguel stepped forward. "Can I say something?" We all looked at him. "I know you're all scared. I know this is weird and complicated, and none of us really knows what we're doing. But I want you to know something. In the last 3 months, I've felt more like I belonged somewhere than I have in my entire life." He looked directly at Mom. "Mrs. Mitchell, Linda, I know you're worried about being fair. I know you're worried about whether you have the right to tell me what to do. But here's the thing. I want you to tell me what to do sometimes. I want you to worry about me. I want you to care enough to fight with me about stupid stuff like paint colors." Mom started crying harder. "And I want you to know that when I call you my mom now, I mean it. Not because some judge said you were, but because you act like it. You worry about my grades and my friends and whether I'm eating enough vegetables. You ask me about my day and actually listen to the answer. You care about what happens to me." "I do care. I know you do. And that's why I trust you to make decisions about my life. That's why I trust you to disagree with me when you think I'm making a mistake." Isabella stepped forward too. "And I want to say something to all of you. I know we've been living in this weird honeymoon phase where everything was perfect and we were all just grateful to be together. But I'm glad we're fighting now. I'm glad we're having disagreements, because that means we're real. That means we're a real family with real problems and real solutions." She looked around the room. "And I want to tell you how we solve this. We make rules. Together. We sit down and we figure out what our family looks like and how it works and who gets to make what decisions." "Like a family constitution?" Sarah asked. "Exactly like a family constitution," Isabella said. "So that's what we did. We spent the next 4 hours sitting around Margaret's dining room table, writing down rules and agreements and compromises. We figured out chores and allowances and curfews and punishments. We figured out how to make decisions about money and college and cars and, yes, paint colors. Miguel got his black room, by the way, but he had to agree to paint an accent wall in a color Mom approved of. They compromised on deep purple. But more than that, we figured out how to be a family, a real family, a family that fights and makes up and finds ways to work through problems together." "You know what?" Mom said as we were finishing up our family constitution. "I'm glad we had this fight." "Why?" Miguel asked. "Because now I know we can survive it. Now I know we can disagree with each other and still love each other. Now I know we're not just playing house or pretending to be something we're not. What are we then? I asked. We're a family. A real, messy, complicated, wonderful family. And that's when I knew we were going to be okay.
Because real families fight. Real families disagree. Real families have to figure out how to live together and love each other even when it's hard. And that's exactly what we were doing. 6 months after the adoption, we were sitting around the breakfast table. Yeah, we actually ate breakfast together now. It was weird, but nice. When Isabella brought up something that had been on all our minds. "So," she said, spreading peanut butter on her toast, "are we actually going to do this foundation thing, or are we just going to keep talking about it?" Miguel looked up from his cereal. "I've been thinking about that too. Like, what would we actually do? How would we help people? We could start with situations like ours, families that are struggling financially but are too proud to ask for help. But how do we find them?" I asked. It's not like people advertise that they're drowning in medical bills or working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. "We ask around," Dad said. "We talk to teachers, social workers, church leaders. They know which families are struggling." "But we have to be careful," Mom said. "We can't just throw money at people and expect it to fix everything. We need to be smart about it." "What do you mean?" Maria asked. "I mean, we need to think about why Margaret's approach worked. She didn't just give us money directly. She created a system where everyone's dignity stayed intact. Margaret was right. Margaret hadn't just handed us a check and said, 'Here, you're poor, take this.' She'd found a way to help us that let us feel like we were earning it, like we were part of a fair exchange." "So we need to create jobs," Isabella said. "Real jobs with real value. Or we need to find ways to help people help themselves." That's when Maria got this look on her face. The same look she used to get when she was planning something. "What if we did both?" she said slowly. "What do you mean?" "What if we bought houses, fixer-uppers, houses that need work, and then we hired people to fix them up, people who are skilled but unemployed, or people who are underemployed and need better paying work?" "And then what?" Jake asked. "We sell the houses to families who need them but can't afford market prices, or we rent them at below market rates, or we rent to own them." I was getting excited. So we create jobs, improve neighborhoods, and help families get stable housing all at the same time. "Exactly," Maria said. "And we can do other things too. We can hire people to provide services, childcare, tutoring, elderly care, services that families need but can't afford. It's like Margaret's model but scaled up," Dad said. "We should talk to David about this," Mom said. "He'll know about the legal stuff, the tax implications, all that." So we did. We called David and asked him to come over for dinner. Yeah, we were the kind of family that invited the lawyer over for dinner now. Maria's cooking was that good. "I think it's a brilliant idea," he said after we'd explained our plan. "And I think Margaret would be proud. But you're going to need help. You're going to need people who understand nonprofit management, social services, construction, real estate." "So we hire them," Isabella said. "With what money?" Miguel asked. "I mean, we have Margaret's money, but that's not infinite." "Actually," David said, "there's something I haven't told you yet. Something Margaret left in a sealed envelope that I was supposed to give you after your first year as a family." We all stared at him. "What kind of something?" I asked. David reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick envelope with "For the Santos Mitchell Foundation" written on it in Margaret's careful handwriting. She anticipated this. She knew you'd want to help other people. She planned for it. With shaking hands, Maria opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and what looked like more legal documents. "Should I read it out loud?" Maria asked. We all nodded. "My dear family, if you're reading this, it means you've made it through your first year as an official family, and you've started thinking about how to help others the way I tried to help you. I'm proud of you for that, but I'm not surprised. It's who you are.
She paused, wiping her eyes. "I want you to know that the money I left you was just the beginning."
I've been making investments and setting up trusts for years, all designed to fund exactly what you're planning. The Santos Mitchell Family Foundation will have an endowment of $15 million. $15 million? Jake yelled. There's more, Maria said, her voice shaking, that could be turned into community centers or offices. Some are empty lots that could be developed into affordable housing. We were all speechless. I've hired a team of advisors, people I trust, people who understand what you're trying to do. They've been waiting for you to be ready. David has their contact information. Maria looked up at David. She really planned all this? He spent the last 5 years of her life planning this. She told me once that she'd spent her whole life being afraid to love people directly, so she wanted to make sure she could help you love other people indirectly. I couldn't even finish the sentence. That's Margaret, Mom said softly, always thinking 10 steps ahead. So what do we do now? Miguel asked. Now we get to work, Dad said. We start the foundation. We hire the advisors. We start helping people. But we do it together, Isabella said. All of us. This is our family project. What does that mean exactly? I asked. It means we all have a role. We all contribute our skills and our time and our ideas. What skills do I have? I'm 15. You're good with people, Isabella said. You're good at listening, at making people feel comfortable. That's a skill. And you're bilingual, I added. That's huge in our community. What about me? Jake asked. I'm still in high school too. You understand what it's like to face challenges and overcome them, Mom said. You understand what it's like to need help and to accept help. That's valuable. And you're good at organizing things, Dad added. Remember how you organized that fundraiser for the adaptive sports program? That was just a big sale, Jake said. That raised $3,000, I reminded him. What about me? I asked. What's my role? You're going to college, Mom said. You're going to learn things that will help us do this better. You're going to study nonprofit management or social work or business or whatever will help you help other people. And you're going to be our bridge to the younger generation, Isabella added. You're going to help us understand what teenagers and young adults need. What about you, Isabella? Maria asked. What's your role? I'm going to be the one who asks the hard questions, the one who makes sure we're actually helping people and not just making ourselves feel good. And I'm going to be the one who makes sure we don't lose sight of why we're doing this. I'm going to be the one who remembers what it feels like to need help and to be proud and to be scared. And I'm going to be the one who makes sure we're financially responsible, the one who makes sure we're not just spending money, but investing it wisely. And I'm going to be the one who makes sure we're taking care of each other while we're taking care of other people. Because if we don't stay strong as a family, we can't help anyone else. David smiled. I think you're all going to be amazing at this, and I think Margaret knew you would be. When do we start? Miguel asked. Tomorrow, Maria said. We start tomorrow. And that's how the Santos Mitchell Family Foundation began. Not with a board meeting or a press release or a ribbon-cutting ceremony. It began with a family sitting around a dinner table talking about how to love other people the way they'd learned to love each other. It began with the understanding that family isn't just about the people who live in your house. It's about the people you choose to care for, no matter where they live or what they need or how they came into your life. Margaret had taught us that, and now we were going to teach it to others. Our first case came to us through Mrs. Rodriguez, the school counselor at Miguel's high school. She called Maria on a Tuesday morning and asked if she could stop by to talk about something. There's a family I'm worried about, she said, sitting in our living room with a cup of coffee. The Johnsons. They have a daughter in Miguel's class, Destiny, and a son in middle school, Marcus. The mom, Keisha, is a single mother working 2 jobs, and the dad, well, there's no dad in the picture. What's going on? Maria asked. Destiny's grades are slipping. She's been falling asleep in class, and when teachers ask her about it, she says she's been staying up late helping her mom with her second job, cleaning offices downtown. Marcus has been getting into fights at school, and when we called his mom in for a conference, she broke down crying because she can't take time off work without losing pay. Mrs. Rodriguez sighed. I know this family is struggling, but Keisha is so proud. She won't accept help from the school's hardship fund. She won't apply for assistance programs. She just keeps working harder and harder, but it's not enough. What kind of help do they need? I asked. Keisha is a licensed practical nurse, but she's working as a cashier at the grocery store during the day and cleaning offices at night because she can't find a nursing job that works with her schedule. She needs something that pays better and gives her more time with her kids. And the kids? They need their mom to be less stressed. They need stability. They need to know that they're going to be okay. After Mrs. Rodriguez left, we sat around the kitchen table and talked about what we could do. We could offer Keisha a job, Dad said. We're going to need people to help coordinate services for the foundation. But she's a nurse, Isabella said. She should be using her skills as a nurse. What if we did both? Miguel said. What if we hired her to provide nursing services for the foundation and also to help coordinate care for the families we're helping? That's brilliant, Mom said. A lot of the families we're going to be working with probably have medical needs too. They probably can't afford regular health care. So we hire Keisha to provide basic healthcare services, blood pressure checks, diabetes monitoring, wound care, medication management, things that don't require a doctor but that people need. And we pay her a good salary, Jake added. A salary that means she doesn't have to work 2 jobs. But how do we approach her? I asked. Mrs. Rodriguez said she's too proud to accept help. We don't offer help. We offer a job. A real job with real responsibilities and real value. Margaret's model, Maria said softly. Exactly. So we asked Mrs. Rodriguez to set up a meeting, not as people who wanted to help the Johnson family, but as people who were starting a foundation and needed to hire a community health coordinator. Keisha Johnson was nothing I expected. She was probably in her early 30s with tired eyes but a strong handshake and a no-nonsense attitude. She wore scrubs to our meeting. She'd come straight from her day job at the grocery store. Mrs. Rodriguez said you wanted to talk to me about a job, she said. I have to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of time. I've got to pick up my kids from aftercare and then get to my night job. We understand, Maria said. We'll be quick. We're starting a family foundation that's going to provide services to families in our community. We need someone to coordinate health and wellness services. What kind of services? Dad said. Basic healthcare, blood pressure monitoring, diabetes education, helping people navigate the healthcare system, connecting them with resources they need. And you want me to do this? I said. You're a licensed practical nurse. You understand healthcare. You understand what it's like to need help but not know how to get it. You understand what families in our community are going through. What's the pay? Keisha asked, and I could tell she was trying not to sound too eager. $50,000 a year to start, Maria said, plus health insurance for you and your kids, plus a flexible schedule that works around your children's needs. Keisha stared at us. $50,000? Plus benefits? That's more than I make at both my jobs combined. We know, because we think this job is worth that much. We think you're worth that much. Keisha was quiet for a long moment. What's the catch? No catch, Isabella said. We need someone who understands what it's like to struggle. We need someone who can relate to the families we're going to be helping. We need someone who's not going to judge people for needing help. And we need someone who's going to do this job with dignity, Miguel added. Someone who's going to treat people with respect, not pity. You've been poor, Keisha said suddenly, haven't you? You understand what it's like. We understand what it's like to need help and be too proud to ask for it. We understand what it's like to have people love you, but not know how to show it in a way that doesn't hurt your pride. And we understand what it's like to have someone find a way to help you that lets you keep your dignity, I added. Keisha nodded slowly. When would I start? As soon as you want, Dad said. We can give you 2 weeks to transition out of your other jobs if you need it. I can give my notice tomorrow, both places. I can start Monday. Are you sure? Mom asked. This is a big change. I'm sure, Keisha said. I've been praying for something like this for 2 years. I've been praying for a way to use my nursing skills and still be there for my kids. I've been praying for a way to help other people while helping myself. Then welcome to the Santos Mitchell Family Foundation, Maria said. After Keisha left, we sat in the living room and talked about what had just happened. That felt good, Jake said. That felt right. It felt like Margaret, like we were doing exactly what she would have done. Better, Mom said. We were doing what she would have done, but we were doing it together, as a family. What's next? Miguel asked. Next, we help Keisha help other families, Dad said, and we keep growing. We keep finding ways to help people help themselves. And we keep remembering why we're doing this, Isabella added. Why are we doing this? I asked. Because we're family, Maria said. All of us. Everyone in this community. Everyone who needs help. Everyone who has help to give. We're all family. That's what Margaret knew, Mom said. That's what she was trying to teach us. That family isn't about blood, Jake said. It's about choice, Miguel added. It's about love, Isabella said. It's about showing up, I added. It's about taking care of each other, Dad said. It's about recognizing that we're all connected, that when one of us is hurting, we're all hurting, and when one of us is thriving, we're all thriving. And that's how we learned that the Santos Mitchell Family Foundation wasn't just about helping other families. It was about expanding our definition of family to include everyone who needed it. It was about creating a community where nobody had to choose between pride and survival, where everybody had a place to belong. It was about honoring Margaret's legacy by living the lesson she'd spent her whole life trying to teach us, that love is an action, not just a feeling, and that family is something you build, not something you're born into. 2 years later, I was sitting in the same funeral home where this whole story started, but this time it was different. This time we weren't saying goodbye to someone we barely knew. We were saying goodbye to someone who had become family. Mrs. Chen, David's mother, had been volunteering with the foundation for 6 months before she had her stroke. She was 83 years old, sharp as a tack, and had a way of making everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. She'd started coming to our community dinners. Yeah, we did those now. Monthly potluck dinners where all the families we worked with could come together and just be together. She'd sit with the kids and help them with their homework. She'd teach the teenagers how to budget their money. She'd give advice to the parents about everything from job interviews to dealing with difficult schools. When she died, suddenly and peacefully in her sleep, the funeral home was packed, not just with her family, but with dozens of people whose lives she'd touched through the foundation. I was supposed to give a eulogy. Me, Sarah Santos Mitchell, who 2 years ago could barely say "I love you" to my own family members, was supposed to get up in front of 200 people and talk about what Mrs. Chen had meant to us.
But as I stood up there, looking out at all those faces, I realized something. I wasn't just talking about Mrs. Chen. I was talking about all of us. I saw families we had helped, volunteers we had trained, people who once came to us in pain, now standing tall with purpose. I saw a legacy alive in every tear, every smile, every connection. I used to think family was something you were born into, I began. But then I met a woman named Maria, and then I met another woman named Margaret, and most recently, I got to know Mrs. Chen. All of them taught me the same truth. Family isn't born, it's built. I took a breath, grounding myself. Mrs. Chen believed in our foundation, not because we were perfect, but because we tried. We tried to love better, to give more, to see people for who they are, not for what they lack. She came to our dinners, helped our children, gave her wisdom freely. She became family by showing up, by loving, by choosing us. I looked to Maria, to Miguel, to Isabella, and finally to my parents. She was one of the many who reminded us that love doesn't end with the people under your roof. It expands, it adapts, and when it's done right, it changes everything. I smiled through tears. She would want us to keep going, to keep showing up, to keep building this ever-growing, messy, beautiful family of ours, so that one day when someone else is sitting in this same seat giving a eulogy, they won't be talking about someone who just passed. They'll be talking about someone who helped them truly live. I stepped down, heart full, tears flowing. And that was how I knew this story wasn't ending. It was becoming a legacy, a living one.